Hello.
Hey Alex, it's Liz.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I seem to be getting a class full of students milling into the room, and I thought I'd make sure that Skype actually worked.
Do you see me?
Can't see you. We see your attractive icon.
Okay, there I am.
Okay, excellent. Hi, class. Okay, class. Say hi to Professor Juhasz.
Hi, everyone. Oh, look at your flags. Very nice.
Yeah, we're very international here. Sorry, this is the scale of classes that we teach in the University of California system. So I wish that it was smaller, but unfortunately, this is the scale at which things happen. So, welcome to Cat 125. So, can we have a rousing round of applause to welcome? Okay, thank you very much, team. So, my students have some questions for you that they've been filtering through their TAs.
Okay.
I thought I'd kind of give you a minute to sort of first introduce yourself, say something maybe about the book, and then any advice that you have for them trying to think about this question of how do you write something for YouTube?
Okay, so can you all see me? The back,
Let's get light in the back. So
is there a backlight problem where I'm sitting?
yeah, go ahead and close the door.
How's that?
We have somebody. Yeah. Okay, hooray.
Okay, so my name is Alex Juhasz. I'm a professor of media studies at Pitzer College, and I think if you spend any time with the book, you know that the project began as a experimental class in 2007, teaching online about online experiences and holding the class inside of YouTube. When I decided to write the book, I wanted to repeat that structure where I was analyzing network digital culture inside of network digital culture for one reason, to start modeling the fact that we can be critical and engaged in these spaces. We don't just have to be, users in the as they've given us these sort of tools, but also to think about the fact that in these spaces, people are writing and reading and thinking and talking in very different ways. So that I wanted to model a writing about my experience that was using some of the languages that have become vernacular and normative inside of those spaces. So for one example, it was your professor Liz Losh who said that I was writing in a tweet-like voice, and that means writing very short sentences or short paragraphs, because I thought that readers online don't like to read long pieces of information, but also writing in short sentences or paragraphs that are accompanied with a video. So the idea would be that it starts to be a much more multimodal form of interaction. People like more forms of stimulation in an online environment. And the book is just published, and you're not the first class to use it, but one of just a small number. And I'm really interested to hear your questions, your comments, and give you any guidance in how to use it better as well. So thank you for having me.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So this question comes from Tara Zeppel's class. Tara's class asks, given your skepticism of YouTube as a platform for critical thought, what concerns does the YouTube environment pose in separating education from entertainment?
Well, I think that one of the big ideas of the book shows up in its structure, which is the U-Tours, and there's 10 of them. And 10 U-Tours are all organized around binary oppositions. But my sort of global statement about YouTube is that all of those oppositions are collapsing inside of YouTube and more definitively online. So that whereas it used to be much more clear to us what is education and what is entertainment, it was much more clear to us in a classroom like the one you're in, what is quote unquote education, and when you leave it and you go to the movie theater, that's entertainment. In an online space, these binaries are they're not differentiable. It defines the space. So my experience of YouTube is that it always was both. That one is always learning there, and one is always learning there in a corporate platform that puts entertainment above everything else. And so the question is this, how can you best use this new kind of learning? Not say, oh, let's lock ourselves up into classrooms and that's what we'll learn, and online we'll just have fun. How can we mobilize this new kind of learning environment where entertainment and education are indistinguishable? That said, one of the things that I found most profound about teaching online on YouTube was that my students kept wanting to reestablish those old binaries. They kept wanting to kind of discipline the space and pull these things that had collapsed into each other apart again. We want education the right way, with walls and doors. We don't want people looking in. So it makes us uncomfortable sometimes to have these things have become as blurred as they now are. So finally, my answer to the question is, I'm trying to model a new form of education with the book that is very serious, that is very intellectual, that has a kind of density and complexity of thought, and yet occurs in this fun space and hopefully is quote unquote fun or more entertaining than some of the drier, more normative books that you read as college students.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Alex. Okay, so the next question also comes from Tara's section. If YouTube is an organizational mess and not easy to search, how do you ensure that your target audience is your viewing audience?
You don't. Just one of the reasons why it stings.
All right, but okay, let's take your case. Did you try to find your audience on YouTube? And how can they maybe sort of think rhetorically, or at least in a sort of network savvy way, when they're creating their final video essays? So one of the things that Mark Marino and I and Dave Perry are all working on is this question of information flows. And how do we teach writing as part of teaching about information flows? And a lot of it is we're doing critique, right? How are corporations controlling our information flows? How are they leading us to advertising? You've had some success using YouTube as a rhetorical platform for your own scholarship.
Yes, but
how have you done that?
I understand the question, and I truly think that this is one of the great failures of YouTube. It's not a place to find, it is a very difficult place to find, in isolation, to find a small, like-minded, tailored group of readers, right? It's impossible to be found there, even if you knew who those people were. When I think about tagging, I think the best use of tags is faking people with tags as opposed to really using tags. It's very easy to get people to come to you by saying that Justin Bieber's in your video, but it's a lot harder to get the people you want by saying, I'm interested in whatever the 5 things you want tagged there. So my answer is, I think you actually have to produce that real audience that might want to engage with you in a serious way by marking your place across the internet and pointing to YouTube, right? So by blogging, by housing yourself in a forum where people are actually having the conversations that you're having, and using YouTube in this sense just as a repository where you can put your videos. I don't know that it's possible to produce conducive communities of like-minded people in that space itself.
Okay. So you might say students can embed, they sort of give up on like embed it in other media.
Exactly.
Rather than try to think that you can do anything in YouTube itself.
Exactly. Use it as a platform to hold your video and to move your video. But it's one of its great failings. It's impossible to find things, especially for small communities of people. That's what I call niche tube, and I think niche tube really doesn't work. Niche tube only works as this kind of muddled sea of possibility. But because you can't find things on YouTube, you have to use other platforms to build real audiences.